We've witnessed quite some confusions of morality in the last week. How can we make sense of this? It's not been the best week, has it? It's been a difficult week. It's a very difficult week. In some ways, an impossible week. We've seen a brutal attack by Hamas against Israel. Israel now has to find a solution to the problem that hopefully is not going to be any more violent than it has to be. But we've seen quite some strange reactions, some of them even on the political left, that I would like to address. And I know this is a difficult topic. I've put some thoughts in a blog post, so you'll find the blog link in the description, because some things are better in writing than in talking. But there have been some overall confusions here. The core confusion, I would say, is a confusion between Hamas and Palestine and Palestinians. Hamas does not speak for all Palestinians, does not even speak for all Gazans. Hamas took power through elections in Gaza and then did everything to never give it up again, in the most brutal way. And even though Gaza was liberated by Israel in 2005, Hamas's continued violence against Israel contributed to the necessity of the blockade of Gaza, which then has again created more humanitarian crises, which is part of Hamas's strategy. Hamas is a death cult. It is not interested in a solution that is humane. It is not interested in a solution that recognizes that the problem in the Middle East, in Israel and Palestine, is that you have a land there where you have indigenous peoples, the Jewish people and the Palestinian peoples, who both have a claim. This is not a question of colonialism. This area has had a Jewish history for millennia. The Jewish state was destroyed by the Roman Empire, which then split in two, and the Byzantine East Roman Empire survived till it was toppled by the Ottoman Empire, which then, in its dying days, saw the British and French empires come into the wider area, till eventually the United Nations decided to create a Jewish state, Israel, and a Palestinian, which then created attacks by the surrounding Arab states against Israel, which created the whole difficult situation we have. Israel and Palestine is not a unique area. There are plenty of areas like that in the world where more than one people lay a claim to an area. Almost every single state in the world has competing claims, has a history of maybe conquest, maybe defense, maybe all kinds of things. So it's not the only territory in the world that sees competing claims. As a German, I'm very aware that Alsace-Lorraine went back and forth between France and Germany, was a cause of wars, world wars even. And now if you go to Alsace-Lorraine, you can travel there from Germany without much of a border control, if any. You can eat Alsatian food, which looks very German. You can go to Strasbourg, in the French cathedral there, you see all the German kings, and it doesn't really matter who the territory belongs to. French and Germans can both be there. It belongs to France, but it's part of the EU. And my hope is that that is a solution also for the area of Israel and Palestine. But Hamas is not interested in that. How do I know that? If you deliberately set out to murder babies, children, women, left-wing activists in kibbutzim, and others, if you set out to murder, rape, or kidnap members of at least 17 nations, you're not interested in peace. And if you set the situation up in a way that you know that Israel's reaction has to be, well, maybe a little terrifying, then you know that you're unleashing that on your civilian population. So who's to blame here? Hamas. There are Israeli settlers in the West Bank who are encroaching on territories that are dedicated for Palestinians. Those you probably can call settlers. But the whole state of Israel is not a settler colonial state. This is the indigenous territory. So when we use words like settler or settler colonialism, make sure what do we mean? Where do we locate this? The next confusion is about Islam. Hamas pretends to be Islamic. Now, I am not Muslim, but I believe I know enough about Islam to know that it is not what Hamas claims it to be. I've learned a lot from Muslim students, colleagues, friends. I've read the scriptures. I know enough about religion, I believe, to know that if you pretend to know the will of God, you assume a lot. And I know enough that the intention of Islam is not to be violent, it's to be peaceful. Hamas doesn't care. Its origins lie in the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Muslim Brotherhood during the 1930s and 40s was heavily influenced by Nazi ideas. This eliminationist rhetoric towards the Jews that Hamas commits to is straight up Nazi philosophy. Again, I refer you to my blog post. So if we say it is an Islamic organization that just did a jihad, we are insulting Muslims all over the world. If you're saying that Hamas here stands for the fight of Palestinians to liberate their lands and to live in dignity, Hamas just did them a biggest disfavor. If you're on the political left and you think Hamas shares your convictions, it doesn't. It is against democracy. It is against equality of women and men. It is against LGBTQ rights. It is against free speech. It is against criticism, critical discourse, a ruthless criticism of everything in existence, the core Marxist value. If you claim to be on the left, think again. Just because you have people here claiming to fight for freedom and liberation, they're lying. They're not aligning with your goals. The state they envision does not align with anything left-wing. So I understand that this may just be the overflowing desire for freedom and liberation and the rhetoric around Free Palestine can be very seductive, but you need to think things through. And if you want to fight for a free Palestine, you cannot couch it in the terms of anti-Semitism or even anti-Zionism. Zionism is nothing else than the belief that Israel is the original home of Jews and they deserve a state there, which they do. So don't fall prey to rhetoric, to inhumanity, to anti-Semitism. There's also confusion between causing deliberate death and suffering or inflicting it as collateral damage. I'm not trying to minimize collateral damage. It's a horrible word. It's a horrible concept. But there's a difference whether you go out there with the intention to rape, murder, kill, kidnap, whatever, those who are innocent, or whether you're going in to find perpetrators of horrendous crimes. This is a difference. And we know Hamas is using the civilian population as human shields. We know that. It's not a secret. They say that. They behave like that. So let's have some clarity about this. Let's also, as I said in my last post, do everything we can to work towards peace. Now, in many cases, those who I may be talking to here, it's about peace in here. It's about humanity. It's about sincerity. It is about when you speak or post, not posturing. Don't say things because you think they'll score with some ideological group or they'll make you look cool or edgy or revolutionary. Some people call this LARPing, live action role-playing. Don't pretend you're a freedom fighter if you are just sitting there in your pajamas in front of a computer. What can you actually do to make the world more peaceful? The idea that this situation could be solved with getting rid of another group of people is lunacy. This won't work. Thankfully, Mahmoud Abbas has already said that he distances himself from Hamas. Abbas has said that he believes in peaceful resistance against occupation. This is the path. Now, Fatah is also not perfect, but that certainly is more reasonable than Hamas. You don't poison the atmosphere. You don't make any notion of peacemaking seemingly impossible. But this is what Hamas wants. This is not what we should want. I've struggled to say anything on that topic for many years because you can easily make mistakes. You can easily be one-sided, and I'm certainly not claiming to be perfect here. So if there are some things here that I say that aren't quite perfect, or that may, in your view, misrepresent something, believe me, please, I'm happily correcting any mistakes I make. I'm happily owning up to that. But please believe my sincerity in saying that all human lives matter everywhere, and that we need to believe in our shared humanity. We can't dehumanize others because we disagree with them. We need to see even those who may today be our enemy, maybe as tomorrow's friends, which, by the way, is something that you find in the Quran. Don't do what's cool. Don't do what's easy. Don't think that this is between one side or the other. As I've said it before, you have to be for Palestine and for Israel and for peace. Thank you very much. This was difficult, but I believe necessary. This is Erratic Attempts. I'm Dr. Philip Kneis, and see you soon.